Well, how obnoxious are we for Valentine's Day? I mean, we couldn't be any more. Bam!
We're so excited to come.
I know.
So excited to get out of the store to see you guys today. We put on our red glitter.
Yes. So happy Valentine's Day, everybody. And what we're going to talk about today is sort of it's perfect for Valentine's Day because it's really about heart health. So whenever we talk about sugar in the diet, blood sugar, that's directly related to heart health. And a lot of people think that they're in their own separate categories, right? Blood sugar is one thing, cholesterol is another. Boy, they are so intertwined together that if your blood sugar isn't healthy, your heart isn't going to be healthy either. So this is the perfect topic today. So I'm excited, and I'm excited for you to see what Carla's going to prepare today. Wonderful for blood sugar management. And delicious, and you guys do have the recipe in your book, so at that time, you know, she'll share with you what that is. So today we're going to learn all about managing blood sugar, how to plan your meals and snacks so that your blood sugar can stay nice and balanced and controlled, and what that means and what that feels like when it's in control versus when it's out of control. Second, why you may be holding on to excess body fat and what to do about it. And this all has to do with blood sugar and how your body manages the carbohydrates that you eat. And then the best sweeteners for your health. If you're going to use a sweetener, the type that we would recommend, and I'll go through those. And we're going to just take you through briefly some of our options, healthier options in our dairy department, frozen foods department, and also our grocery department. So there are a few slides in there with some things I wanted to share with you, as well as point out some of the options that we have for, you know, better options for blood sugar control. So a little bit on the homework. I want to hear from you. The homework was to add 5 to 10 superfood servings. And I want to know how you guys did. How many are you averaging in a day? 1, 2, 3, 10, 17? Anybody want to share? I'm not going to yell.
Did she say 17?
No, I just said 17. How many?
Okay.
How many? How did you?
I have added more in my smoothie, so that's been good.
Yeah.
So I bought the MCT oil, and like you don't notice it at all.
How do you feel differently with that, the MCT oil?
I mean, I feel good, but I don't know if it's solely that. I also put it in my coffee because the container said, and you couldn't taste it in the coffee, but I felt like I had like a little oily residue on my lips.
It's really nice.
So it's much better in the smoothie.
Yeah.
Because I didn't really love that, but you don't notice it at all.
You don't notice it in there, yeah, absolutely. So how many superfood servings are you able to get out of a smoothie, do you think?
I mean, honestly, I can do pretty good. I have lots of like the powders.
Yeah.
So, you know, like between like I use a lot of the naked juices.
Okay.
And then frozen fruit, and then those powders. So I feel like
probably getting at least a good 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Depending if you put any ingredients
without
in
the smoothies, not as good, but yes.
That's why you hear me say smoothie a gazillion times, because it really is so easy to get them in a smoothie. Or, you know, I taught a class in our Chicago stores. I'm actually doing this class in our Chicago stores for our customers. And one of the couples, husband and wife couple that came to the class, the woman raised her hand and she says, I get what you're saying about smoothies, but I have to chew my food. My breakfast, I have to chew. I like to chew my food, right? And I said, totally fine to do that. I get it, because there are some people who just will not like a liquid breakfast. And if that's the case, you have a little smoothie and then you have something that you can chew, whether it's some walnuts or whatever, but you're getting your chew on while you're drinking. So if that sounds like anybody in here, totally fine to still add the smoothie, but just make it maybe a smaller one, and then maybe, you know, something on the side that you can chew.
I wondered if anyone in this room feels like there's a big difference between blenders in making smoothies.
Anybody have any thoughts about that or experiences? Yeah.
I have a really cheap one, and maybe because I don't know any better, it works very well.
It does. Okay. Which one do you have? Just out of curiosity.
I don't know. It was something under $20.
Okay.
Walmart. Yeah.
And I think it depends also what you put in it. So if you're putting just frozen fruit in a liquid, maybe some nut butter or something like that, maybe some ground up chia or ground up flax seeds, it might blend it just fine. With mine, I have a Vitamix, and I love my Vitamix. I put raw carrots in there, and it just liquefies it. So it depends on what your goal is. You don't need to spend $500 on a Vitamix to make a smoothie because it's not necessary. Somebody else raise their hand?
NutriBullet.
NutriBullet, yeah.
Good things.
I like the NutriBullet.
Yeah, that's a nice one. We use that a lot for demos.
Yep.
Yeah, it's very, and it grinds up raw things.
It does.
Right? Yeah. Anybody else?
I use a blender for my smoothies, but I find it better that if I mix up, like I use kale and spinach, I use the chard,
Yeah.
I use all the mixture.
Oh, good, yeah.
And I use pineapple juice and almond milk.
Okay.
And I find if I mix that up first, then I put my nuts in.
Yeah.
After it tends to blend
Depends on how you
better.
layer it. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. And that's true. So if you do put everything in there all at once, you'll end up chewing your smoothie. So if you want to chew your smoothie, well then you can just do that. But no, that's true. It does depend on how you layer that. Anybody else have any thing that they're proud of or not so proud of with their superfood servings? How many servings a day are you guys averaging? 7? Okay, so the goal was 5 to 7. Yeah, I called you out there. Keep doing this because you know what? It's a very good way to challenge yourself. If you're at 7, say, how many days a week can I get 8? Not I'm going to do 8 from here to eternity, but how many days? And then you just, again, what I said the first week, what you feed your body most, it'll crave. So the more you add, the more you're going to crave. So. Yeah.
As far as like cashews and walnuts, which is the healthier one?
They're both great. Walnuts, because of the omega-3 content, plant-based omega-3 is higher. So cashews, however, blend really nicely. Like if you're making a creamy soup that you're trying to avoid cream, cashews do a beautiful job at making soups creamy, like soaking and blenderizing them. So you could never use a walnut for something like that. Cashews have a wonderful place in the diet, but they're also fine. Raw cashews are great too. But if you're looking at them in terms of omega-3, the walnuts definitely win out on that. Yeah. Okay, so this week, managing sugars. It's important to know that all carbohydrates, no matter what they are, will break down into sugar in your body. So when I hear people say, I'm not eating any carbs, that makes me crazy because I ask them then, are you eating vegetables? Well, yeah, well that's a carb. So don't say you might not be eating any bread or starchy things, but you're still eating carbs when you're eating vegetables. So another way of saying sugar is glucose. So when you get your blood sugar measured, they're measuring blood glucose levels. So essentially what happens is, let's say you eat that could be a plate of pasta or some broccoli or an apple, right? Essentially what happens is your body breaks that down. So that's a carbohydrate. It breaks it down into glucose molecules or sugar molecules. And then that glucose in your blood that's floating around in your blood will trigger your pancreas. That little highlighted organ there is your pancreas. That will trigger your pancreas to produce insulin. Glucose will trigger your pancreas to produce insulin. So this all happens in all of our bodies, unless your body doesn't produce insulin. And in that case, you're type 1 diabetic. In an attempt to normalize the blood sugar. So your body senses there's sugar, it tries to bring the sugar down, okay? And then what happens is, let me go on. Yeah, I'm sorry about these slides. I didn't. What happens once the insulin takes that glucose and then it shuttles it into the cells where it belongs, your blood sugar comes down. Okay, that's what a healthy body was supposed to do. But the problem is, when we eat too many carbohydrates. So carbohydrates aren't the enemy, you guys. They really aren't. We need them, but we just don't need them in the ungodly amounts that we eat them as Americans. So when we eat too many and we eat the wrong kinds, this forces your body to overproduce insulin. It's got to keep up. it's shuttling out that insulin because it's trying to bring the blood sugar down, right? This is what I need you to understand, is that insulin, it's a hormone, but it's a fat storage hormone, okay? So when you have too much insulin circulating in the blood because you're eating way too many of the starchy carbohydrates like the pastas and the breads and the, the foot-long subs with all this bread on it, so this is why carbs get a bad name. What that ends up doing when you produce too much insulin, it triggers increased hunger. So essentially, when you feel that rebound hunger, I don't know if you guys experience this, but for me, after I eat pasta, unless it's like a pasta like this, that's like a bean pasta. This is a mung bean, edamame mung bean fettuccine. And so essentially what this is it's just edamame, or organic edamame and organic mung beans. It's not wheat-based pasta. So this is loaded with fiber, loaded with protein, tastes like pasta, right? So this is not what I'm talking about when I'm talking about pasta. When I eat a bowl of pasta, whether it's whole wheat or not, I am like an hour to an hour and a half later, I'm like, I feel like I didn't eat anything. And that's because that pasta broke down into sugar, increased my insulin, right? Shuttled the insulin in to clean it up, and then caused that hunger response. So the bottom line is, when we gain weight, the cause of weight gain for many people is we have too much insulin floating around in our blood because we're just eating too many and the wrong kinds of carbohydrates. That's how carbs have gotten a bad rap. So you've probably heard of the glycemic index before. I don't really use this a whole lot, but I think it's useful to know what it is when you're choosing certain foods. So the glycemic index of a food is a measure that's given to foods that shows how sharply that food will increase your blood sugar levels, okay? So when that glycemic index is higher, that means it's going to spike your glucose and therefore your insulin levels much more quickly than, let's say, a lower glycemic index food. Now, it also depends on whether this food is eaten alone, on an empty stomach, or if it's with other foods. Also, the ripening and the processing of the food. So, for example, if you're eating, say, watermelon is a high glycemic fruit. And there is, in your workbook, there's a list of glycemic index and low, medium, and high glycemic index foods. So watermelon happens to be a higher glycemic index food. It's delicious, does not mean you should never eat it, but I wouldn't eat that on an empty stomach before I go to bed, right? Because it's just going to shoot your blood sugar up. I would much rather have that with a meal, maybe with some protein, whether it's some chicken, some good healthy fat in there, nice salad or something with some nuts or something on it. That way that food, that watermelon, is not going to have that high glycemic response, as high of a response. Also, when you cook things too much, like pasta, you overcook them, you increase the glycemic index. Foods that are more ripe, bananas. If you eat bananas like my father does, with all the brown spots on them, like he loves those. Like that's the ones usually people throw in the freezer for smoothies, right? He loves those. That glycemic index is higher on a more ripe banana than one that just turned yellow. So just understand that when you can even taste it, right? You can taste a ripe banana is very sweet and sugary, but it also increases the glycemic index and therefore will increase your blood sugar, have more of an effect on your blood sugar. So that chart I was talking about is on page 14 of your workbook. And understand glycemic index only refers to foods that are carbohydrate based. So like a piece of chicken or a piece of salmon or some olive oil, they do not have a glycemic index rating because there's no carbohydrate in them. So they're really only your fruits, your vegetables, beans, and those types of carbohydrate foods. So your healthiest carbohydrate foods that you can choose, this is pretty across the board. Low glycemic fruits like apples and berries, those are on the lower side. So if you're going to eat any kind of fruit at all, berries are your lowest glycemic. Blueberries, raspberries, blackberries, those are going to be your best. They're not the sweetest all the time, but that's why your glycemic index rating is lower.
Before we go any further, when we do make the mistake of eating a huge carbohydrate lunch, french fries, hamburger, what do we do to cancel it out?
Walk. Even if it's for 10 minutes, get moving. You know, and you're not doing it so I can burn calories. You're helping that glucose break down, get shuttled into the cell to help kind of, that's why I always tell diabetics, after you eat dinner, no matter what it is, you know, because you're going to have some carbohydrate on your plate. You're not going to live carb-free. Take a walk around the block. Or if you get on a treadmill for 10 minutes just to walk, and you always feel better, right? Because you always feel after you eat kind of like, okay, now I just want to sit down. But yeah, take a walk. How about that? That's really not going to, I mean, it'll help your body with metabolism to metabolize the nutrients, but it's not going to, walking, just 10 minutes, whatever you can fit in. Find a reason to go to the bathroom or the copy machine or whatever you need to do, Mm-hmm.
I have a question in your example about the spaghetti. Mm-hmm. So if you're at home and you're making your own plate of spaghetti, I was thinking, so would your thought process be to try to take lesser pasta, but like get more meatballs? Obviously, you'll load your sauce up with more vegetables. Yep. But if I'm making choices about what's going to be filling, I would choose more protein and less pasta.
Yes. So here's what I would do, because I wouldn't give it up, right? You don't want to. So you could do one of two things. You could try one of the great alternatives to pasta that, you know, we have that hold the texture. I mean, Carla made one yesterday at an event that we had, and you used lentil pasta, and it was lentil penne pasta. You would never in a million years know that this was made out of lentils because it tasted just like regular pasta. But so what I would do, that would be option one. Option two would be you're not going to fool your family with anything and you're going to have regular pasta. So you have it, right? But you make that more of like the side dish. So you have it, you enjoy every bite, and then you've got your meatballs, whether they're turkey meatballs or grass-fed meatballs, then you have like your non-starchy vegetables. So it's still there, but it's not, bam, pasta with, you know, a little bit of something else, because that protein and the fats will help slow that release,
So on here it says the whole wheat bread is higher, the medium glycemic index, same thing with like whole wheat pasta.
Yeah, I mean, they're not low glycemic in general. That's why these would probably be bean-based or lentil-based would be lower glycemic because there's so much fiber. Right, yeah.
You know, Melanie, I just wanted to add, if they were here before in the fall, and what was the ancient...
Oh yeah, you made the quinoa pasta, right?
Quinoa pasta.
What's the brand called though? Ancient
Harvest. Ancient Harvest quinoa pasta.
I made goulash with it for my kids. They had no idea.
Yeah.
And it was really good. I mean, and I'm a pasta lover, and it's
most people
it's worth trying.
You won't notice the difference, really. You know, and you're Italian, right? And you, so like,
and my family eats it. Yeah, and I love it.
So so those are good questions. Very good questions. Also, lower glycemic index vegetables, broccoli, sweet potatoes. Yes, sweet potatoes are lower glycemic. They're wonderful. White potatoes aren't horrible. I just, again, wouldn't be sitting and eating a white potato on an empty stomach or a big bowl of mashed potatoes on an empty stomach. I would, you know, I'd opt for sweet potatoes, to be honest. Keep the skins on if you can, because anytime you keep the skins on those potatoes, you're increasing the fiber and you're decreasing that glycemic response. So also low glycemic grains and starches like beans. I beat that one to death. I think I've drilled that into everybody's head. Lentils, oats, and quinoa. Those would all be, you know, reasonable grains. You don't have to give up grains. Just choose the lower glycemic ones, especially if you're having issues with your blood sugar or your A1C levels being a little bit elevated. So tips to help you manage your sugars. Sprouting or choosing sprouted breads or wraps. Carla drove this home last week with the Ezekiel wraps. Those were sprouted wraps. Ezekiel bread. There's other brands called Angelic Bakehouse, which is in our bread aisle, or Alvarado Street Bakery. Those are also sprouted. Ezekiel, I believe, is the only one that's 100% sprouted, right? And that's why it's in the frozen foods department, because it's basically sprouted. It has to be frozen, otherwise there could be spoilage if it's sat on a shelf. Also, jams, jellies, those types of things, if you use them, that's okay, but you know what? There's this craze with mashed avocado on toast. It's amazing. When I first saw that, I'm like, this is nuts. But if you've ever tried it, it's amazing. I add a little bit of feta cheese on mine, you know, because it needs something, you know. Some people will add a little bit of the pink Himalayan sea salt on there just to give it a little bit of salt. But honestly, you don't miss the jelly when you add that fat, and it stays with you longer, and it helps to decrease the blood sugar, the response of that bread. At that point, you add the mashed avocado, which is fat, and it helps to decrease that response in your body. Understand fat, like avocados, oils like coconut oil, MCT oil, nuts and seeds, they do not raise your blood sugar. They do not trigger an insulin response. So that's why when you hear these people following these keto diets, I'm not promoting that at all, by the way, but if that is what they're doing, that because they're trying to either manage the heck out of their blood sugar, so they're adding more fat to the diet so it doesn't spike the sugar or trigger that insulin response, and it actually does work. So what I'm suggesting is that you just add more of these fats to your diet, just like I said last week, because it does not raise your blood sugar at all. And then opt for quinoa over rice, or what Carla's going to share with you today, which I'm so excited for you guys to try. It's not confetti, it's actually cauliflower rice. So it's raw cauliflower that's totally pulverized to resemble rice. And this, if you're a rice lover, you use this in place of rice, and it's just very, very low glycemic and very filling and full of fiber. So you're going to love what she came up with there. Sorry, I let the cat out of the bag. I couldn't help it. I was so excited. And then also, like I said earlier, when you're eating a higher glycemic food, always pair it with something that's lower glycemic, or a protein or a fat. Like I mentioned before, the chicken or something along with the watermelon, not just the watermelon by itself, or like a nut or nut butter. Almond butter or peanut butter. So usually at this point people say, okay, what about artificial sweeteners, Melanie? If I'm trying to decrease my sugar, should I not just opt for sugar-free packets, the pink packet, the yellow packet, the blue packet? What do you think my answer to that is? Don't do it. Here's why. Next week you're going to learn how important your gut, your microbiome, your gut bacteria really is to everything about our health, including our mental health. When you eat or include any of those artificial sweeteners, aspartame, acesulfame potassium, sucralose, or Splenda, what that does is it alters the chemistry, your microbiome in favor of bad bacteria. So it changes your gut composition in not a good way. And also, it favors the growth of species that can increase your risk of diabetes and obesity even more than sugar-sweetened beverages do. There's lots of research out there on how these things can mess with your blood sugar. So I am a big fan of just gradually, if they're in your diet and you're addicted to those diet sodas, very gradually wean yourself off of those, because you're not doing your body any favor, you're not doing your blood sugar any favor. There's really nothing good about it. Don't buy what the industry tells you about, oh, they're safe. There's many things that they say are safe that are not safe, in my opinion.
Yeah, I've read that aspartame, or if it's in Diet Coke, it could cause migraines, that fibromyalgia. Yeah. People have symptoms that are similar to fibromyalgia, and they drink too much Diet Coke.
It's a chemical. So it's a chemical, which means it's unnatural, and it's going to do unnatural things to your body. I can totally attest to that. I shared with you the second week how, I didn't get to be, a healthy eater overnight. I used to be addicted to the little pink packets, okay? They were in everything that I ate. Matter of fact, my nice little bowl of oatmeal, my maple brown sugar oatmeal, Quaker maple brown sugar oatmeal, in the packets, I would put, and I'm not even kidding you, 3 of the pink packets in my already sweetened oatmeal. And it wasn't to the point where I was doing them in aspartame flavored yogurts. This was like more in the late 90s. That I started getting really bad headaches, and I'm like, okay, so what's going on here? And then I read that can trigger migraines, and so I gradually stepped off of those, pink packets and all of that, and anything that had artificial, even gum, Crystal Light. It's in everything, right? And now if it's in something, I'm like, what's in here? I could taste it. Could you imagine 3 of those in an already sweetened oatmeal? It was horrible. My poor body, what was I doing? Trying to save calories. Oh my God, I was just, God only knows what my poor body was going through. But yeah, you have to step that down, right? You really have to step it down. If your taste buds are used to that level of sweetness, something without it is going to taste absolutely horrific and plain. So you may have to very gradually step yourself down from that. Mm-hmm.
What about stevia?
So, my next question. What about stevia? Because that always comes up. So thank you. You just rolled me right into this next slide. I love when that happens, right? That's why I put this in there, because everybody asks, what about stevia? So what about stevia? So here's my take on stevia. Well, first, what is it? It's a family of plants that grow in Central and South America. So it does come from a plant, okay? And I'm sorry that you can't see that. It is a safer alternative to artificial sweeteners, like the pink, the yellow, and the blue. However, it's still 100 times or more sweeter than regular sugar. And so here's why I even bring that up. When you do the pink, the yellow, or the blue packets, they are hundreds of times sweeter than regular sugar. So that tricks your brain and your body into thinking, okay, she's given me calories here, when you're really not giving it any calories. So it increases your level of expectation of more food, of hunger. Stevia does the same thing, because even though it comes from a plant, and I'm sure the plant is beautiful, right, it still triggers that response, that hunger, almost artificial hunger response. I have a personal story with this. I used to do a lot of the protein powders that we sell that have natural stevia in it, okay? So it's, you know, non-GMO, it's a healthier alternative to putting sugar in there. And then I did a little cleanse, a little 12-day cleanse where I just cleaned out all of the artificial sweeteners and stevia. You couldn't have any of that. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna die. My smoothie's gonna taste horrible, right? But I did it. And after 12 days, I went to put my stevia-based powder back in, and I was like, whoa, this is really sweet and almost offensive to my taste buds. So you have to, you're going to be used to that level of sweet. So what I would prefer you do, if this is in a smoothie or some tea, use a little bit of honey. Use a little bit, just a little bit of honey. It's a lower glycemic sweetener, teaspoon, right? You don't need much. So if you need this in your smoothie, I'd rather see you do, if you need sweet, I'd rather see you do a teaspoon or 2 of raw honey versus this, because of that response in your brain. I've experienced it myself. So it is safer than the artificial sweeteners, but if you're looking to really get that under control, you know, just look into that. And if you are going to use the stevia, the best option here that I showed is the sweet drops or the sweet leaf. That's more of a, it's not a processed, like the powdery ones that we, like Truvia and what is the other, Truvia and Purvia, those are more processed stevia blends. This is more like the real thing. So if you're going to use it, drop or 2 of that. That would be your best option. So the natural sweeteners, I already touched on this a little. Raw, local honey it's actually your best option, raw and local. Pure maple syrup, these are lower glycemic sweeteners. Now, let me just throw this in here. It's lower glycemic, but it doesn't mean you just, okay, Melanie said it's lower glycemic, and I'm just gonna, woohoo, we're gonna have a ball with this. It's still gonna raise your blood sugar if you go hog wild on it. I mean, so just be smart about it, right? Teaspoon of the honey or 2 is, you know, is okay, but, you know, adding too. You should have seen how my husband used to dress his pancakes before, you know, we really started eating a lot healthier. It was like, hon, I can't even find the pancakes and all of that. It was all this. So now what we do, if you love your maple syrup on your pancakes, this is the best idea ever. Take a little bit of almond butter, right? So like our Heinen's fresh ground almond butter, and then you add like a tablespoon of maple syrup, and then you add some almond milk to it, and you mix it up. You pop it in the microwave or do stovetop, and then you melt it kind of all together. So what you're dressing your pancakes with is a really nice healthy fat with a taste of maple syrup, and it's liquidy because you added the almond milk to it. So it does dress like a sweetener, has the flavor, but now you've added the fat to it, so it's going to lower the glycemic response of those pancakes because you added this to it. Yeah, and also coconut nectar and coconut sugar are lower glycemic sweeteners as well. These are, if you're looking for these are in Carla's section in the wellness department. So these are, you know, they're not as sweet as sugar, but it'll do the trick if you're looking for a little bit of sweet without it, like, I don't even think it's as sweet as honey, is it? It's a little more muted, more caramely kind of flavor. Yeah.
Does it taste like coconut?
Not
really, no.
Not really.
Like more like caramel, wouldn't you say?
More caramely, yeah.
But again, just teaspoon, not, you know, we gotta be smart about that. Also, since I have these here, lower sugar. Now, if you guys notice how I'm walking very oddly, I made a deal that I wouldn't let my little Valentine's necklace chatter too much because he was going to make me take it off. And I said, oh no, one time a year I can wear this necklace. And so I'm kind of walking very strangely. That's why. So anyway, am I doing good? So anyway, the lower sugar bars that are convenient that you could, you know, have in your desk or in your car on the way home if you're, you know, hungry. I love the Kind bars. They 5 grams of sugar or less. Not all of them are, so you want to make sure that you're looking at the sugar content. They're very delicious. Some other ones that I think are even a step in the better direction are Elemental bars. These are superfood bars loaded with good healthy fat, but lower in sugar. I believe they're like 8 grams a piece, which is pretty low sugar for a bar. These are very filling. They're small, but they're super, super filling. So these are the Elemental bars. And this is a brand new bar that we got on the market in our stores. It's called the Thunderbird bar. There's only 5 grams of sugar per bar, but they're loaded with nuts, seeds, coconut oil. So again, it's very, very filling. After you eat, sometimes if I'm in a rush, I might have this with a piece of fruit for lunch because it's filling. It's very filling. And the one that's the lowest in sugar is this one right here. It's the hemp and sunflower and pumpkin seed. The other two that we have aren't, they're more like 13 grams of sugar. But this one is delicious. The first ingredient is dates, but it's not a whole lot of date. It's sweet, but not overpowering at all. This is delicious.
Would popcorn be bad to eat all the time?
No, I mean, it's a whole grain. It depends. If you're like my mom who buys, and I'm not even joking, I went to her home the one day and she said, "You want some popcorn?" Sure. She popped a bag of, it was called Butter Explosion, okay? So if it's that kind, probably not. But the Skinny Pop is just basically popcorn, right? I mean, they don't put any funny oils in it.
But is it going to raise the glycemic?
Popcorn itself,
It's slow.
It's more of a low glycemic.
Glycemic, yeah.
It depends too, like how you feel after you eat it. For me, well, that's the problem. That's why I don't eat it, because I could eat the whole bag and more, and I'm like, okay, I felt like I just ate air, you know, and that's. So if you want to keep eating it, that's a signal for you that it might be raising your blood sugar in an effect that you're just going to want to keep eating more and more and more of it. That's why I kind of stay away from it. It's not that it's unhealthy, but you just have to know yourself. It's not bad. Popping it, air popping it, or stovetop with a little bit of coconut oil, wonderful, you know, sea salt. It's an amazing flavor, but it just, for me, it does the same thing. Yeah, so.
It's like the whole bag.
Yeah.
Right. And want some more. Like,
yeah, so at that point, is it healthy if we're going to keep, yeah. I would opt for a handful of walnuts, almonds, cashews, something like that, you know, and it'll be totally different in your body. You'll feel it. You'll be like, okay, that was good, because they're, you know. But it wasn't popcorn. Mix some popcorn in with the nut. You could do that. Good, yeah. And throw some nuts in there with your popcorn. Okay. So a couple things I want to share with you in some of our departments. Our dairy department, so we've got lots of non-dairy milks, and no matter what grocery store you shop at, you'll probably notice that there's like an ever-expanding aisle of non-dairy milks. There's flax milk, cashew milk, almond milk, coconut milk, soy milk, goat milk. I mean, there's so many. This keeps growing and growing and growing. Also non-dairy yogurts and cheeses. Coconut yogurt is a wonderful lower glycemic yogurt that if you have issues with digesting dairy, a lot of people are lactose intolerant nowadays, and oftentimes dairy, they can handle dairy because it's a little more digested than milk would be, but some people still have issues digesting dairy. So one of my favorite new things is the coconut yogurt. That's just plain coconut yogurt with some berries and seeds that I mix together. It's delicious, really good healthy fat. Some of the other ones that we have that are dairy based are the Siggi's and the Viking yogurt. Those are Icelandic yogurts, which means they're really high in protein. And the Siggi's is actually a 4% fat, so it's a full fat yogurt. Understand that the fat-free yogurts, when you don't have any fat in there, remember what I said about blood sugar? When you don't have any fat in there, it's going to increase the blood sugar response. So not only do the full fat yogurts taste amazing and so much better, but they're better for your blood sugar. So Siggi's yogurt is a lower sugar yogurt to begin with. They just don't add a lot of sugar. And you're going to, it's not going to be like Dannon fruit on the bottom. I can get 10 for 10. You know, you're going to pay a little bit more for this per container, but I will tell you, it's so much more satisfying and you feel it. You don't feel like you want another one afterwards because it didn't spike your blood sugar like the others. So again, Viking and Siggi's are really two good ones. We also have, if you're dairy-free or you're cooking for somebody who's dairy-free, you're making a pizza and they can't have cheese, there's a whole line of, it's called Daiya cheeses. And how do they melt? I've never used them. Do they melt?
Yeah, they will melt well.
Okay. I don't use them, but I do know a lot of people use them because they can't handle, you know, the dairy products. So they come in slices as well, right?
Slices, cubes, shredded.
Yeah, so just know that. I mean, there's options if you are trying to go dairy-free or you have somebody in your home that's dairy-free. Also, I talked about the Icelandic yogurts. Grass-fed milk, we talked last week about, you know, grass-fed being higher omega-3. So if you are drinking milk and you want to opt for more of a better, you know, good, better, best, grass-fed milk is really in that category your best because it's higher in those anti-inflammatory omega-3s. And free-range eggs. So now the egg aisle is just ever expanding, right? So now we've got our conventional eggs, and then we've got the cage-free eggs, and then we got the free-range eggs, and then you got organic mixed in there, all in the middle. So a lot of people get confused. So what's what, and what do I opt for? Well, I opt for free-range. I always do free-range organic eggs. I don't do organic everything, but one of the things I don't compromise on are my eggs. So there's a difference. When you see cage-free and when you see free-range, or it's also called free-roaming, cage-free just means these hens aren't in a cage, but they may never see the light of day. Most of them are in barns or they're in very close quarters, but they're just not in a cage, okay? Then you have free-range or free-roaming. These hens are actually out, daylight. They're doing what hens do. They're dusting their feathers or whatever they do, and they're eating worms, and they're doing what hens are supposed to do. So in my mind, you are what you eat, right? So if you're eating eggs from a hen that's stuck in one of these little battery cages, I don't feel good about that. If I know my hen is roaming around, you know, and kind of enjoying the sun, to me that's going to be a healthier product for me to eat. And I eat eggs and I enjoy them. But that's where I spend in my own diet a little bit more money, is I always opt for the free range, also called free roaming. One of the brands is the Pete and Jerry's is free roaming. Hillendale Farms is another free range, free roaming. And I think that's local. Hillendale is local, right? Yeah. Organic Valley is another free roaming, free range egg. So that's the difference there between the eggs. So you do you know, spend your money where you want to spend it. That's, for me, that's just where I tend to just upgrade a little bit, is my eggs. Frozen department, those of you who are either hosting people who are gluten-free, we've got a whole section of gluten-free everything. Now understand, gluten-free does not automatically mean healthy. Okay, because there's gluten-free donuts, right? And there's gluten, honestly, they look delicious. There's gluten-free muffins and gluten-free everything. Don't fall into that trap thinking, I'm gluten-free, but I'm eating gluten-free donuts every day for breakfast. That's not good. So be very cautious. Also, the Ezekiel bread is located, like I said, in the frozen department. Path of Life quinoa, I put this here because if you're ever looking, you love quinoa, but you don't even want to spend the 12 minutes that it takes to boil it, we've got these wonderful little frozen, almost like bags of frozen quinoa mixed with some herbs and spices and vegetables. Makes a great quick side dish. It's called Path of Life quinoa. There's a lot of little gems. There's a lot of junk in the frozen department, but there's a lot of gems. And if you're shopping, our downtown store, ask Carla, where are the gems? Not the Tombstone pizzas, but what's a and also there's a whole range of healthy burritos. There's a Sweet Earth burrito and Amy's burrito. These are quick kind of meal ideas. Pop it kind of in the microwave if you do that kind of thing and you're looking for something quick, but that's not going to destroy your path. Sweet Earth and Amy's are two different brands that we offer of different lunch burritos or even breakfast burritos. So it's something quick. And then of course our grocery department. I love cleaner marinara sauces and pasta sauces, so we've got lots of them. Full Fork, which is the one on the bottom, and also is it the Lucini brand, they're good brands that don't have added sugar in them. Carla mentioned this yesterday. A lot of these pasta sauces, one of the ingredients is sugar, and they're just adding sugar, and there's no need for that. So Full Fork is actually a local company that makes it, and it's delicious. There's many different varieties, so you may want to check that one out. Superfood oatmeal cups, if you're really, in a pinch for breakfast, they're already done for you cups, and you just add the water, hot water, and it makes your oatmeal, but they have extra ingredients that make them more superfood rich. Those are in our cereal aisle. Healthier oils, the avocado oil, we have almond oils. So in our inner aisles of grocery, if you're looking for a different oil to cook with, we have different, like I said, walnut, almond, avocado oil, different types of oils.
What about peanut oil?
Peanut oil is it's higher omega-6, right? So it's not one I would prefer. I would rather just use olive oil, or if you're looking for a higher heat cooking oil, coconut oil. It's okay to use once in a while because it is good. It does taste good.
It's good for frying chicken or something like that, but I don't fry anything.
Yeah, so I would probably opt more for coconut oil. Yeah, I love my coconut oil.
Is that in the same area?
Yep, they're all in the same area in the inner aisles. Yeah, by the olive oil and all that stuff.
Macadamia nut oil.
Oh yeah, macadamia nut oil.
Hemp nut oil.
There's tons. I mean, it's
tons.
It's amazing.
With the nut oil, sometimes you have to really pay attention that once you open them, they need to be refrigerated.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
Pecan oil is one of those.
Pecan.
So I don't know that you guys have pecan oil, but I
Oh, that I've seen it.
use
Which oil?
pecan oil. Pecans.
Oh, okay, we don't have that one, but yeah.
That's good.
And once you open a bottle of that, you're committed to refrigerating it until you use it up. So just because I have encountered that with a nut-based oil, I think I would be pretty conscientious about reading those labels to find out, like after I open them, should I keep them in a cabinet like canola oil or Weston or whatever, or do I need to put it in the refrigerator?
That's a good point. So always read the labels, right? I'm bad at that myself.
What does that expression clean sauces mean?
Basically, when I clean, they're not adding any extra sugars or preservatives or anything like that. So when you read the ingredients, you'll see tomatoes. You'll see, some of them have like chopped olives in there. They're real ingredients, olive oil mixed in it, maybe some sea salt, not these ingredients that I don't know what they are, which are most likely preservatives or sugar or things that really shouldn't be in a sauce. So yeah. And then of course I talked about the sprouted breads. Not only are they in frozen, but check out more of the sprouted on our shelves, the Alvarado Street or Angelic Bakehouse. If you're like Navy SEAL looking to go really, all out sprouted, Ezekiel is for you. But if you're just like, okay, I'm going from Wonder Bread, Melanie, you're not going to like Ezekiel bread. So what I would do is, opt for like an Alvarado Street or an Angelic Bakehouse. It's a nice introduction to sprouted breads. You're not going to hate me after you make a sandwich out of it. Ezekiel, you're probably going to put it on my front doorstep if you're not quite there yet, right? So you'll get there. But these are nice stepping stones to the Ezekiel bread.
You keep saying sprouted. What is sprouted?
Sure. So and you actually gave a good explanation of this. I'm going to let you take that, Carla.
Sure, I'd love to answer that. So, all sprouting means is that you took the seed or the grain and you put it in water and you let it soak. And while it soaks, the outside wall of the seed or grain kind of cracks open, breaks open due to its soaking. And with that, a little sprout actually starts to appear there. When we consume that sprouted seed or grain, we are consuming vital enzymes and other nutrients that were in the middle of that were contained inside the seed or grain prior to it being sprouted. We reap the benefits of all those nutrients inside that otherwise we would not have. So we're getting a lot of extra nutrition from a sprouted seed or grain, and the sprouting also makes that seed or grain much easier to digest. So many people have issues, you know, with wheat products. Once they kind of turn over and start consuming sprouted products, sprouted grain products, they find that they have many, many less issues.
So it's better than 100% wheat.
In my view, yeah.
I would say, yeah. But, and again, that's another one of those health halo foods where, you know, they've got sprouted tortilla chips, you know, so you get this wonderful, delicious bag of sprouted tortilla chips that are delicious, but they're also a snack food. So be careful that, you know, because now the food industry has latched on to that term and, oh, everything's sprouted now. And because everything, you know, is healthier when it's sprouted, people tend to think, oh, so if regular tortilla chips are just okay, this is actually a health food, right? No, it's not. But it's a better. But you still have to be, you know, it's not just woohoo, you know, kind of like these. It's very similar. But yeah, it's it would be sprouted tortilla chips would be a nice thing to throw into your popcorn with your, you know, walnuts. See how I'm building on this? This is great. So walnuts and stuff with a little bit of the popcorn, couple sprouted tortilla chips, and then you got yourself like a little healthy trail mix, kind of, sort of. Just pop a movie in and you're all set. Okay, so homework for this week, I want to challenge you, continue building those superfoods. If you can aim for 10, especially if you're experimenting with those smoothies, you'll find it very easy to aim for 10 of those superfood servings a day. Just count them and see. You're probably a lot closer than you think, okay? And so next week we're going to talk about supplementation, smart supplementation, and we are going to answer the question, the hormonal kind of question that we had week 1, you know, menopausal symptoms and hormones and supplements that could help with that. We're going to address that next week with supplementation. And so today, Carla's going to make the Sicilian cauliflower rice pilaf.
Get the skillet going right away here if you have more to say.
Fermented foods.
And we're going to talk about that next week because it does deal with probiotics. So yeah, we'll talk about probiotic-rich foods and fermentation. Yeah?
Yeah. Any other questions for Mel? I just need to get this oil heated up right away, and I'm going to start sauteing onions, which are going to take a couple minutes.
Can you talk about the apple cider vinegar?
Oh, I did. Yeah, that's right. Okay. Yeah, so that was one thing I didn't talk about real quick. Apple cider vinegar, it's great for salad dressing. It's vinegar's, you know, a great opportunity to add some extra nutrition, especially if it's a raw and if it's apple cider. So apple cider vinegar, if you're having issues with blood sugar, okay, especially, this is the perfect, somebody asked the question about what can you do after a meal. Duh, it was sitting right there.
Yeah.
Apple cider vinegar can help lower blood sugar. It's actually really good, especially the Bragg apple cider vinegar. It's probiotic rich. It actually, if you're feeling a little sore throat coming on, tablespoon of this with some hot water will help to kind of, you know, because it's more antibacterial. But especially when it comes to blood sugar, it can help lower the blood sugar, especially after a big meal. So yeah, this with a little bit of warm water. I like it hot. Some people will like it cold. There's cold beverages with apple cider vinegar, but it's really good for blood sugar control. Really good. It doesn't always taste the best because it's vinegar, but once you get used to that flavor, you can also add a little bit of honey to that if you wanted to, make it a little bit of a drink, some ginger. But yeah, this is a great brand. Bragg apple cider vinegar is wonderful. And can somebody relay that message so I don't forget next week to let her know about that if you see her? Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, everybody. So as Melanie referred to earlier, the demo that I'm doing today is on page 32 of your workbook, and it is Sicilian cauliflower rice pilaf. And I just think this is the perfect dish for blood sugar management for quite a few reasons. Melanie stated a couple, but first off, cauliflower is low glycemic by nature. Okay? It's a member of the cruciferous vegetable family, so it's right up there nutrient-wise, nutrient density-wise with broccoli and Brussels sprouts. And as Melanie alluded to before, when you have a dish like this in your repertoire, it's easy, it's economical. You'll see it's going to take me just a few minutes to put this together. The longest thing that it's going to take right now is to saute these onions up and get them a little bit transparent. So that's in the process right now, onions and olive oil. It's easy, it's economical, it's nutritious, and it's a great thing to add to your daily plan or your weekly plan of eating to take the place of rice or pasta. This rice pilaf can easily take the place of a traditional rice pilaf using white rice, which has absolutely very, very little nutrient benefit. Okay, so we are off and running here.
You can make pizza crust out of it.
What was that?
You can make pizza crust out of cauliflower.
And you can make pizza crust out of cauliflower as well. Yeah, which is another really nice alternative to using white flour. You substitute in cauliflower that's been pulverized all the way down into a powder.
And you find that in our produce department, right? Our cauliflower rice.
Exactly. It's in the produce department in the produce cooler.
And if you wanted to make your own, you could just throw it in
Even
your
more
food processor.
economical, buy a head of cauliflower and put it in your food processor or your NutriBullet. I'm not sure that a regular blender could handle it, but perhaps a regular blender could handle a couple pieces of cauliflower at a time, and you could very easily pulverize that cauliflower down
Raw.
into pieces
Correct.
such as this, the raw cauliflower. Exactly. So that would be super economical. So the onions are becoming transparent in the olive oil. And the next thing I'm going to add for a little bit of crunch and a little bit of healthy fat and some other minerals is pistachios. Now pistachios, we had a great question earlier. What's a healthier nut, a pistachio, a cashew, or a walnut? Pistachios are actually a member of the cashew family. And just referring back to what Melanie said earlier, many times you choose a nut for a dish based upon the culinary result that it's going to give you. In this case, the cashews are going to add sort of a buttery flavor to the pilaf itself. So put those in.
For those of you who are wondering, Carla's eyes are natural. How about that?
Oh.
You see her up there with those blue eyes and that red?
I'm not sure how we got
I
into
don't know,
that
because I
subject.
just keep looking. Because I asked her, I'm like, the one day, I'm like,
Okay.
are those contacts? Because who has eyes that blue?
That's because I eat so many greens.
They're natural.
Right?
No, you're all wondering.
So we're toasting up the pistachios along with the onion and oil. Next, we are going to add a couple tablespoons of capers, and capers are just a berry. They're going to add a nice little texture to the dish, and I'm going to add a little bit of garlic. Put that in there.
So when Carl called it cauliflower rice before, is that really just cauliflower? Or
This
there
is
another-
just cauliflower, just cauliflower. The term rice is being used as a visual. It looks like rice. Yeah, and also the term rice can refer to a process that's being done when you rice a vegetable. So it can be used as a culinary term.
A new one is also, we have broccoli rice. Same thing, but using broccoli.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Exactly.
I buy them and I put them as a colorful thing on top of my salad.
Oh, nice. Yeah, makes it easier to eat on a salad.
Sure
Oh, that's a good idea.
Next, I'm adding a little bit of fresh lemon zest. I think lemon zest just makes any dish pop, especially a cruciferous vegetable dish. Just smells so good, it's fragrant. I think everybody kind of knows the nutrition equated to lemons, very high in vitamin C. Lemons are not acidic. Once they enter the body and the bloodstream, they're actually neutralizing, so it will help neutralize your system and help get it into a balanced pH. And last but not least, in goes our cauliflower.
And in the recipe, you're using frozen?
This is just fresh cauliflower that has been riced. Okay. It's located in the produce department.
All right, so it says culinary cuts cauliflower, but it really means the cauliflower rice.
Exactly.
That's the name of the, I think
it's a brand. Yeah, I'm sorry if that was confusing. The Culinary Cuts is just a brand name of fresh cauliflower that has been pulverized down to look like rice. And we just saute this for about 2 minutes. You don't want it to become mushy. You just want it to become sort of like al dente when you're cooking pasta, a little bit firm to the bite. That going. In the meantime, I'm going to add my favorite, the pink salt, which many people don't even consider pink Himalayan salt salt. They consider it a supplement because it is so full of mineral content. There are about 80 different minerals in this salt. I'm going to give it a couple turns here. It'll really help wake up the flavor of the dish. And a little bit of coarse black pepper. Like so. And it's actually such a pretty dish. This would be beautiful alongside a piece of salmon, a piece of grass-fed beef, piece of chicken.
Some tempeh. Oh, and prepared foods. Yeah. We've had those for a little while now. Yeah, they sell like
They're
crazy.
going over very well at the store.
Yeah, they sure do sell like crazy. Minestrone?
Minestrone in like the hot soups.
Oh.
Yeah. It was at the Brexville store that I encountered this, and I decided, well, I'd like to try that, and I will tell you that it is, I don't know if it's popularized across the Highlands, because I haven't seen it anywhere.
I haven't seen it. I've never seen that, so it must be new. Must be new.
Yes, I think, like somebody's experimenting.
Yeah.
The people in the chef people who tend to come up with things.
Yeah.
There was one store I was in that had a Thai ginger-based soup that was really excellent, and they had just started making it. And I said, whoa, this is really delicious.
That's good to know.
Okay, the last thing I did was I folded in some fresh parsley. I always tell people, try to eat your herbs, don't just use them as garnish. They're just chocked full of nutrients. Parsley happens to have an abundance of chlorophyll, which is very detoxifying for our body. As well, it also helps digestion quite a bit. And that's all there is to it.
That was
And
like
we're
less
done.
than 10 minutes.
Exactly. All set here. It should be nice and tender, but not mushy. And I'm excited for everyone to try it. Just a new little twist on a side dish.
We have a cauliflower rice on chicken stir fry.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of
How
rice.
did that?
It was really good.
It turned out pretty good. Awesome.
Oh, that's a great idea. I've heard that a lot. People subbing this in for their Asian dishes. And it's versatile. You don't have to use this Sicilian-based repertoire of ingredients.